An average family man living a normal life happens to be an undercover agent working for the government. His folks at home thinks he's the most boring person around, and his wife can't resist the call for adventure when a real-life loser tries to seduce her by pretending he's a super spy. Of course, all of this is taking place in Paris, 1991. Is someone truly lying to me? Or am I getting a true feeling of déjà vu? After the massive success of Terminator 2, Arnold Schwarzenegger tells James Cameron about a French film with an interesting concept for a main character. Arnold thinks the role would be perfect for him, as he'd get to play a loving father as well as the ass-kicker he's already known for. This movie from 1991 is called La Totale, and is directed by Claude Zidi, also known for directing the first live-action Asterix movie, which ended up being subpar compared to the animated feature films starring the Gaulish hero. La Totale and True Lies actually have a lot in common, even by remake standards. It can't even be a surprise that James Cameron reproduced many of the shots from the original. The sexually oriented dialogues also comes from Zidi's film, if you ever wonder why True Lies had some very graphic and crude lines. But let's not be mistaken though, the French film is the only one to actually include nudity, and it has the main character actually having sex with a prostitute during his mission, which makes the relationship with his wife a bit different. One of the major differences though is that La Totale didn't really have a main antagonist. The quote-unquote villains only show up for a few seconds at the beginning, only to be seen at the very end. The scope of the missile crisis is much smaller than what it is in True Lies. And the hero's organization is actually the cause of the trouble, and by the time he escapes and tries to save the day, you learn that the weapon was already jammed, so the missile was never really a threat. This actually makes up for a very underwhelming third act. Earlier on, our main character, played by Thierry Lhermitte, asks for his entire squad to track down his son who's not going to class, and discovers he's been stealing money from his friend and rapping in a gang instead of working for his A-level. In James Cameron's movie, the fact that a teen steals in front of the hidden camera is never really developed, and the kid gets away with it. It has to be said though that True Lies is a much longer movie than La Totale, using that extra time to fill it with action scenes that would put Last Action Hero to shame, considering how over the top they get. This gives True Lies a completely different flavor than La Totale. The comatose performance of the French actors plays a great part in this. Even though Arnold himself doubted that Jamie Lee Curtis could be believable as a housewife, I can assure you that Miu Miu, as famous as she was back then, is absolutely brain dead during the whole movie. And the few actors actually awake end up acting completely out of place. I can tell you that that scene with Bill Paxton is 100 times more effective than the original with Michel Bougenat. And I should mention that Eddie Mitchell was more famous for this than this. The cast is actually composed of big shots on a national level. For the anecdote, Thierry Lhermitte starred in Little Indian Big City 1994, which was remade in 1997 by Disney under the title Jungle to Jungle with Tim Allen as the lead role. Another film that starred Lhermitte was Le Dîner de Con by Francis Weber, released in 1998. And if that sounds familiar to you, it's probably because Dinners for Schmuck, also known simply as The Dinner, starring Steve Carell, released last year, is a remake of the original movie starring Lhermitte. But Hollywood wasn't the only one interested in that story, since Bollywood also produced their version, which even spawned its own sequel this very year. Another funny piece of trivia is that this movie saw the start of Frédéric Diffental's career, who later on became famous for his role in the Taxi trilogy produced by Luc Besson, which spawned an American remake starring Queen Latifah, also produced by Besson. Going back to La Totale, it's really interesting to watch only if you're a hardcore fan of True Lies and James Cameron and want to know more about the origin of the movie. It's genuinely fascinating to see a relatively modest French film that feels a lot like a TV special being turned into the super Hollywood blockbuster, as if True Lies was the equivalent to a kid retelling the story using G.I. Joe's action figures. I'll end up this video by saying I had a hard time tracking down this movie, even in France, since la totale is also how you call a full-course sexual act in the language of love. Thank you so much for watching, and I promise you won't see me next time on Déjà Vu.